Howdy everyone. I am just getting started with permanently attaching the rear window to the fuselage. I've been struggling mentally in my head how best to do this with fuel tank sealant, because you can see that the window has to go underneath this rear skin all the way around, and it has to sit on top of the roll bar here. So originally I was thinking that maybe I would put fuel tank sealant on the top side of the rear window in this area and put fuel tank sealant on the underside of the window in this area and then try to fit it in. But when you fit it, it would pretty much wipe everything off. It'd wipe all the fuel tank sealant off. It would make a huge mess. So I've been thinking about it, really couldn't come up with a good solution until just now. I decided before I do anything, I just wanted to refit the window to make sure that the holes look like they were in the right position with the threaded holes underneath in the roll bar. And then I wanted to make sure that the holes in the canopy or in the rear window matched with the dimpled holes in the skin. I just wanted to make sure that everything was right. Now that I have it in, it's become obvious that there's enough play in it that I can do the fuel tank sealant with it actually in place. So you can see, especially in these areas on the sides here, there's a lot of give. I mean, I can open this up and stick my fingers in here. So I can put some fuel tank sealant either right on here, or I can try to stick it up underneath and then put the window in place. I can do that pretty much all the way around. It gets tight in here because the roll bar is in the way. You can't really move the plexiglass. But I took these screws out of the skin here, and I can pull the skin out a little bit. So I think I can get fuel tank sealant stuffed down in here all the way around. This top part here is going to be the worst because it's riveted across the back here, and to try to get something between, there's this metal brace underneath here. The plexiglass right now is sitting on that, and then it's stuck up underneath the skin. So this skin has very little, if any, play in it. I don't know how I'm going to get fuel tank sealant under there, but I'll do my best. And then this front area I can also have propped up. You can see I can move this front area all over the place, so I can get fuel tank sealant up underneath here. So that's the plan. I'm going to leave the rear window in place. I'm going to do what I can to get fuel tank sealant up underneath it and around the top as best I can. Then I'll gently move the window into final position and start running the screws in. And like I had done on the canopy, I'm going to use what I consider to be temporary screws. These will not be permanent. These will just be used to hold everything together while the fuel tank sealant dries. Ultimately, all these screws are going to be replaced with a different material. And I'm going to use the supplied CAD plated screws for my temporary screws, but ultimately those are all going to come out after this area has been painted. Those screws will come out, and I'm going to put stainless screws in. It's just personal choice. I like the look of paint with bare unpainted screws, so that's what I'm going to do. So for now, I'm going to mix up fuel tank sealant, and I'm going to go ahead and try to get fuel tank sealant around this perimeter the best I can, and then screw it down, and we'll see how that goes. Talk to you here shortly. Howdy everyone. You can see that I've got some fuel tank sealant now around this top edge. I basically just moved the window out, and in this top area here where it's the tightest, I pulled the window out, put fuel tank sealant on the very aft edge of the window, and then slid it back in. And then while the rest of this was pushed in away from the skin, I was able to put a bead all the way around it. And then when I moved the window into final position, I was able to come around and do another bead all the way around. So now I'm getting really low on fuel tank sealant, so I'm going to mix up another batch, and I'll be able to reach under here and push this up out of the way like you can see here. And I'll be able to get up underneath and put a bead around this top area. And then I'll put the screws in to cinch everything together, and then I'll come back and clean up all the mess. So that's the plan. Let me get cracking. I'll talk to you soon. Howdy, everyone. All right, the rear window is now permanently installed on the airplane. I was able to, like I had said before, I was able to basically manipulate the window around and get fuel tank sealant up underneath this side area and along the back, on both sides and along the back. Got it into place, and then I was able to have this front area here up so I can get fuel tank sealant underneath it all the way around this front edge. And like I had used before, I had used some plastic syringes. I believe I bought these from McMaster Car. These. There are a couple of different sizes. I have, you can see potentially these two here. They have these very long pointy nozzles. I use those and just cut the nozzle back to the diameter that I thought would work best. And then I was able to stick that nozzle under here all the way around to get the sealant in, and then the same thing up underneath this forward edge to get the sealant in. Now, a couple of things in hindsight. I never painted my roll bar because, like I've said, I planned on having a strip across here, and I wasn't too concerned about having a lot of sealant underneath. I just wanted enough to keep water from potentially getting around and then back in. So you can see it's ugly. There's it's just all over the place, right? It looks like crap. But my plan is to have a strip over top of this. The only time you'll see this, you'll never see this. This will be covered up with the strip because the strip will get attached to the canopy. This, however, will be visible when the canopy is open, which will be very rare because I don't plan on parking the airplane with the canopy open. So not too concerned about that at the moment. But the window went in really nice, and everything is in place, and it's finished for now. The only thing I have left to do is once I get this strip made and painted, and I get the area around the canopy painted, like I said, I'm going to swap out these screws for something else, but that's later. So now I'm working on the strip. And what I've decided to try is I got some heavy brown like wrapping paper, construction type paper. And I basically measured out the 4-inch wide strip, just like my piece of aluminum. This is roughly 66 inches in length. And all I did was take this brown paper and lay it across the canopy. I made sure I left enough of the edge hanging down over top of here so I can trim it. Laid it over top of the canopy all the way around, made sure that it was laying flat on the canopy edge because, like I said, it will get attached to these screws on the canopy, and then it's just going to overhang the back. So I wanted it to fit tight around this edge here. Put it down, held it down with a couple of pieces of tape, and then using a screwdriver, I found each of these screw head locations and just poked through the paper into the screw, which is what you'll see here. So I've got my individual pieces of tape that held this to the canopy, and then you can see where I was able to locate each screw just by poking it with a screwdriver. So now this is basically my template. I'm going to position this over my aluminum. If there are any areas which might be a concern with edge distance, obviously I'll just shift it a little bit on the actual aluminum to make sure that edge distance is good. And then I'll basically transfer these locations to the aluminum, mark them, drill them, and start fitting the actual piece at that point. So let me get moving on some of that stuff, and when I get to working on the actual aluminum, I'll come back and show you how it fits.